We are going to start talking about Photoshop today. Before we get started, a couple things to go over. First of all, to open up Photoshop, if you don't have, first of all, there should be a little icon bar on the bottom of your screen. See where my cursor is right here? Oh, no, you can't see it because it's cut off. I'm sorry. There's like a little dark blue box with a little light blue PS in the middle of it, like an icon for Photoshop. That's one way to open it. If you don't have that, it's not the white square with the blue PS in it for PowerSchool. It's a different PS. If you don't have that, look up at the screen. Go over to your Windows button. It's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Click on that, and it'll pull up your apps list, your list of programs. Scroll down under the A's until you get to Adobe Photoshop, which is right here where I have selected. You can also access it that way. Now, if you open that and it doesn't launch, if it gives you some weird error message saying that you need permission or that you need to sign up, that is an error. That should not happen. So what you'll probably need to do is refresh your network connection, because we access Photoshop through the network here. So on your desktop, you should have a folder called CGHS Tools. Okay? In that folder, there should be 4 files. One of them is called login script. If you double click on the login script, that should refresh your network connection. Then that should allow you to connect to Photoshop. If that doesn't work, try restarting your computer. If neither one of those work, then you need to go to STARS and tell them you're having a problem. Okay? Now, you're going to need, once you have Photoshop open, you're going to need a folder full of sample files that we're going to be using over the next few days to play around and experiment and learn with. All right? I have put these files in 2 different locations. The first location is in the L drive, the lessons drive, which we don't really use anymore, but I still have some things stored there. All right, so the lessons drive is located, if you look again at the bottom of your computer screen, you'll see a row of icons for different things. There's an icon that looks like a manila folder with a blue letter A in front of it. That is the lessons drive. When you click on it and open it, you should see this. You should see a list of teacher names. Okay? If you do not see that list, that means that you must once again do what I told you a minute ago. Go to CGHS Tools on your desktop and hit the login script to refresh your network. And that will fix it. All right. Once you get to the L drive, you will go to my folder, find my name, Kempel.Chris, right here. Click on that folder, like so. Have you been paying attention? No, you haven't been. So why should we help you? I mean, why aren't you paying attention? Okay, but you have something up there about Sunny and there's a horse. And I mean, what does that have to do with what we're doing? I mean, all right. Okay, let me just say this. If you deleted the CGHS folder, tools folder from your desktop, aside from being a complete idiot, you need to go to stars. No offense, I love you, but man, that was a dumb thing to do. Well, you don't do that. Don't delete things. Well, Scott, come on. Don't, in your efforts to make room for Fortnite or something on your computers. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that was not a smart move. All right, all I can tell you is go to stars and they can try to recover it for you. No, not right now. You're going to have to do it after school or something. Okay, well, you're lucky then. Yes, login script. All right, very good. We're back in business. Anyway, moving on. On the L drive, in my folder, there is a folder called Happy Box Image Resources. It's okay. Right, so then you need to take yours to stars. So, okay. Have you tried the login script again? Okay. All right. Happy Box Image Resources in the L drive. Here's what you need to do. Once you find that folder, right click on it and go to copy. Copy that folder, the whole thing. Look up at the screen. It's right there. Happy Box Image Resources. Yep. Right click, copy. Now, go to your desktop or somewhere on your computer and right click again and hit paste. So that way you have your own local copy of that folder on your computer. I guess I need to pause this because apparently this simple task is taking forever. I am not sure what the problem is. Wrong button. Sorry. I'm trying to record these so that way you can go back and watch them later, if you need to. All right, so at this point, you should have that folder copied to your computer. If you can't get to the network or the login script, don't worry, because I also saved those files to the class website under resources. So you can access the files that way. If you go to the class website, go to the resources tab, that folder is also there. Okay? So at this point, you should have that folder copied and you should have Photoshop open. Are we all on the same page? Excellent. All right. So if you have Photoshop open, you should be seeing this. All right, you should be seeing the workspace that you're seeing up here on the screen. All right. Okay, great. Now, you guys worked a little bit with Photoshop back when we did the stippling project and I showed you how to grid stuff. So this should not be completely alien to you. However, we're going to do a quick refresher. Okay? So, we've got a few different menu areas on Photoshop. We've got the top function menus. These are the main kind of menus that do things like create and save files, open files, edit. That's where the file menu edit does things like fills and strokes, which are like outlines and color fills, and undos, where you can undo something that a mistake that you made, for example, copying and pasting, paste special. We'll get into more of those later. Okay. Image is a menu where you can go in and alter the contrast or color balance. Image size, which shows you the dimensions of an image. Canvas size shows you the dimensions of the file that you're working in, etc. All right, so you've got all these function menus up here that kind of do the main, quote unquote, main stuff as far as file navigation. Now, beneath this, you have what are called option menus. And these display options for the tools that are on the left-hand side. And if you notice here on this row, whenever I click a tool, the information on that bar changes with the tool. So it's just a way of going in and getting more individualized control with each tool. Now, on the right-hand side, you have what are called your floating menus. So these are things that you can close or open at will. You can customize this area of the workspace. You can have a lot of different images open in Photoshop. I mean, not images, but also menus open in Photoshop at once. But the only ones that I really ever use on a regular basis are layers and swatches along with the options and the tools. Okay? You've got to have layers open. If you don't, go to Window, go down to Layers and check that box or hit the F7 key. You've got to have layers open. Okay? Go to Window and then just, you see this long list of stuff, just hit Layers. I mean, some of these other ones are useful. I just like to not have too many open because I don't like a cluttered work area. I want to have room for my images. All right. So what we're going to do now is kind of go down the list of all of these tools here, and kind of go through the functions of each one. Before we do that, we need to have an image open to practice on. So back in that folder that you copied over, that Happy Box Assets or whatever that folder was, you're going to open. You can do File, Open, Happy Box Image Resources. There's a file called template.jpg. This one right here. Click on that, hit Open. And again, make sure you are going to the copy that is on your computer. Don't go to the L drive version, because you do not want to overwrite those L drive files. Those are the master copies. So that way, if something goes wrong and you need to go back and start from scratch, you can go back to the L drive and get the originals. Okay? All right. So here is your blank template. This is basically what your box is going to look like unfolded and unassembled. All right, and these are the sides that you're going to have to fill with some kind of content. So what we're going to do is just practice using some of these tools and some of these menus over the next few days and just learn some basics. Yes, Abby. Okay, that's fine. If you want to get rid of your grid, go up to View right here, go to Show, and then just go down to where it says Grid and uncheck the box. Right here, View, Show, Grid. And then that'll get rid of it. All that means is that the grid is still up from back when we did this, the stippling several months ago. Okay? Now, we're going to just start from the top and start going down the toolbar, and we'll start addressing these different things. All right, this first tool at the top of the toolbar is the move tool. Basically, all it does is it moves elements around within an image. Okay. Right now, all I have open is the background layer. This is the first layer that every image you start with in every layer, every image. All right. I can't really move the background because it's locked. See, could not move the tool because the layer is locked. Background layers are always locked in Photoshop when you start them. So let's put something on there to move around just to see what it does. All right, I had this open from last period. Obviously, all of the sample images I got were Batman related because I'm a Batman nerd, as you all know. So I want to take this separate file, which is also in that folder you copied over. You can open it up if you want, Batman character, B-Man character JPEG. Just take that, and with the move tool, drag it directly onto the image, like so. And there he is. He's small, but he's there. And when I did that, if you'll notice, I now have a new layer in my image. Now I have background and layer 1. Whenever you copy and paste something into a Photoshop file or drag something over into a file, it puts it on a new layer automatically, which is very helpful. Now, because this element is on a separate layer, even though he's part of the image, he is separate and independent from everything else in the image. So I can edit this layer independent of everything else, which is incredibly handy. That's exactly what you want. One of the most important concepts to understand about Photoshop is the concept of layers and what they are and what they do. Layers are just separate elements within an image that can be manipulated. They can be combined and flattened down into one, or they can stay separate. Now, the disadvantage to having lots of layers is that sometimes they can get really confusing when you have like 100 layers in an image. And I've gone over that on some of them easily in the past. So you want to make sure you're organizing them, you're naming them. Like, for example, when I drag this over, it just named it layer 1 by default. You don't want to have that continue. All right, so I'm going to name this layer Batman. I double click on the name, and you can automatically name it whatever. So that way, because eventually, if you have lots of layers, you don't want to have like layer 534. I mean, what does that even mean, right? You get really confused. So naming layers is a good thing. All right, so now the move tool is moving my guy around. That's mainly what it does. You're just arranging things in space. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this, Control Alt Plus. But let's say I want to make Batman bigger on this box. If I go to Edit, go to Transform, go to Scale, what? It's already what? Big? No, I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, well, that's because it's probably putting it in as a smart object, which is fine. You can still do it that way. It's just that that's a separate thing. Those will need to be. Does it have like a little X on it? Yeah. A smart object is something that it's imported into an image, and it's not yet a real part of the image yet. It hasn't been rendered. It hasn't been rasterized. It's just sort of there temporarily, kind of like in limbo, I guess, is one way to look at it. So that's fine. In order to fix that, you simply right click it and then find rasterize image and rasterize it, and then you should be able to scale it and do whatever. Or you can scale it as a smart object and then rasterize it, either way. Rasterize. I believe so, yes. Right click on the thing you're trying to rasterize. Okay. Well, we'll cross that bridge in a minute. We'll get there. I think what Connor is talking about is, let me bring in another one and let me open up this folder. Let's do Red Tornado. Let's bring Red Tornado in. Where did you go? Yeah, see, like it looks like this, right, Connor? Yeah. All right. Whenever you are dragging something from another folder onto an image, it's going to do this to it, where it has like a little X across it and it has like a little scaling box, right? And you're kind of doing this weird squishing and stretching to it. This is referred to as a smart object, and basically it's just there as a temporary kind of a thing until you have it the way you want it. Now, in order to avoid the squishing and stretching phenomenon, hold down Shift when you drag, and you can scale it that way. But when it comes time, once you have it the way you want it, you right click on it, then you hit place. Now it's in there. But it's still a smart object. If you want it to really be part of the image, you'll need to go back. Hold on. This is misbehaving here. It's actually fine like this for now. I mean, it has this little icon here. See where it says Smart Object Thumbnail? There's a way to rasterize this. Maybe you click here. I'm losing how I did it, but I did it one other time, but it's not doing it the same way now. So I'm just confused for a moment. Maybe you need to have it selected or something. Anyway, for the time being, it's in there. So if that happens to you, just know that you can scale it the way you want, right click and hit place, and the little X will go away. And now you can edit it. Yes, I don't care. We're sending me emails. All right. So now you can see I've got two different characters on here. Right now, Red Tornado is in front of Batman because his name is Red Tornado. Because his layer is on top of Batman's layer. But if I left click and drag this down, watch what happens. Now Batman is on top of Red Tornado because I changed the order of their layers in the stack. So the order in which you have your layers stacked in this little window here affects their visibility. Also, if you look at the little eye icon to the left of each layer, if you click on that, that changes the visibility of the layer as well. You can turn it on and off like a light switch. It's still there and it's still part of the image, but you can turn it off and on. All right, so that's the move tool in essence. These next three tools here on the toolbar all do the same thing, but they do it in different ways. These are selection tools. You've got the marquee tool, the lasso tool, and the quick selection / magic wand tool. So each of these tools makes selections, but does it differently. So for the marquee tool, and by the way, whenever you see a button with a little arrow to the bottom right corner, that means it's a pull-out menu. You left click and hold down, and you'll get more options. All right, the rectangular marquee does just that. If you click and drag, it makes a rectangular shaped selection. If you hold down Shift, you can constrain the proportions and make it a perfect square. So this is good if you're trying to select a big area of something and edit it. If you hold down Shift again, you can add to the selection. You see that? I'm adding to it by overlapping the shapes. If you hold down the Alt key, it subtracts from the selection. The purpose of a selection is that you can isolate an area of an image. It's basically like telling Photoshop, hey, Photoshop, pay attention to what's inside this dotted shape and ignore everything else. So if let's say I got my pencil tool or my paintbrush tool, and I wanted to paint some color. See, I'm over here painting and nothing's happening because I'm not inside the selection. As soon as I move this in the selection, right? So I can only paint inside that selection. Now, the other things you can do with selections, you can fill them. You can also just delete them. Also, if you click on the inside of a selection with the selection tool still active, you can move it around. You can reposition it wherever you want. But you got to be clicking inside the selection with the selection tool to do it. All right. You can also do a fill or a stroke with a selection. Go to Edit Fill. Make sure foreground color is selected. Hit OK. And now whatever color you have as your foreground color, which in my case right now is yellow, it's going to fill it with that color. How about that? Okay. Now, let's undo that. You can also stroke a selection. A stroke is basically another word for an outline. So I go Edit, Stroke. Let's change this to 50 pixels. Hit OK. And now I put an outline around the selection. Okay? So you can actually do a lot with selections and fills and strokes. Okay? Now the next one and the next one, the elliptical marquee, does the same thing, except it does it with round shapes. So now I can put a round one on top of that. I can move it around, reposition it, change my color, swatch, go Edit, Fill again. And now I can fill the round selection. Once it's filled in, I can't really, I can move the selection, but what's inside the selection stays. Okay? Now, the lasso tool also makes selections, but it does it freehand. So if I just click and draw with a shape, let's do the regular lasso first. See, I can just draw any shape I want. and come back to where I began, and it turns that shape into a selection, which I can then fill or stroke just like I did with the marquee tool. Yes. Uh-huh. Get rid of the white? Yep, I'm going to go over that in just a second. Okay. Now, bundled with the lasso tool is the polygonal lasso, which does the same thing except it creates freehand selections using a series of straight lines. And see, now I could like hit delete, and it'll delete whatever's in the selection. I can get the move tool and move it. Right. So that's the lasso tool. Finally, we've got the magic wand and the quick selection tool, to get back to what you were asking a second ago. Now, let's go back to our Batman layer. Yes, Batman has this annoying white border around him that's blocking him. I want him to be like a clean cut kind of a shape that I can move around. If I select, I got to be on the right layer. If I go to the Batman layer and click on the white space using the magic wand, see how it selects only the white, right? Because that's what the magic wand does. It creates a selection, but it does it based on color information. So if you click on something that's all one color, one flat color, it will select everything that's that one color that you clicked on. So it's really good for things like this where something is against a flat background, because you can just select the background and hit delete, and see now that white space is gone. And now when I have him overlapped, it looks good. It looks nice. I can also do that with Red Tornado as well. Go to his layer and click on the white space and hit delete. Man, there is no magic marker. Yes, magic wand. All right, see, here's where that earlier when we were talking about that little X thing with the smart object, this is where it becomes a problem. Now when I want to try to delete the white from the Red Tornado layer, when I hit delete, it tells me the smart object is not directly editable. This is when I can go and click inside here, click on the layer, and rasterize it. I just had it. And it disappeared on me. Here it is. Rasterize layer. Connor. Go to rasterize layer, click that, and then it should be able to edit it directly. And there you are. Okay? Now, here's another instance where the magic wand is a really good tool to use. On the background here, you have, let's say you want to fill all this with color. Like you want to add just some flat background color to your thing. First thing we want to do is duplicate the background layer, because we always want a version of this layer that is pristine. Now I can click anywhere inside these shapes and it will select the entire shape. And I can hold down Shift to hold down multiple things. Now if I go to Edit Fill, watch what happens. because I was able to select the entire thing because it's in an enclosed shape, I can add background to my box really easily with the Magic Wand tool. But the key is you've got to have a shape that's completely enclosed in an outline, and you've got to have a flat color. Like so. And you can do that with any color. Okay? All right. So, that was a little rough going at first, but I think that we'll stop for today because the bell's going to ring in like 2 minutes. So we will do more of this tomorrow. Again, I will post copies of these on the website. There'll be like YouTube videos that you can watch, so that way you can go back and rewatch, and if you miss something or you want to see how I did something again, you can go back and check it. So tomorrow we'll continue working our way down the tool list and just going through the different things you can do.